The story begins, in the Antares Empire capital Rifenheim, monsters and humans were fighting. The Majesty said that their 2 million strong military was defeated by the evil demon they summoned, and his knight said that 200,000 died from the wide-range magic attack and the summoning, and 300,000 were injured. The Majesty said that the Demon King may have brought ruin to their nation and painted their world with evil, but that was where it ended. The evil Demon King will die at the hands of the true heroes. At the heart of the great demonic palace Garak, Hall of Abyss. The one was saying that it was the time for the evil king to return to the dark. He was the Demon King Rifenhardt, the Emperor of the Antares Empire, and he was the protagonist of our story. He was Sword Saint Cyrus. He told the Demon King that they will eliminate him and bring an end to the history of those dark empires. The Demon King said that it was quite upsetting. He put a lot of effort into constructing those empires and asked why were they calling it a dark empire when it's called Antares. The martial King Tesslon was saying to him that the growing demons were there, and when he was gone, the corrupt monster's demonic nature would disappear too. The Demon King was evaluating that demonic nature, that what they were like to begin with. He only taught them human tactics. They have lived all their lives being mistreated, so he taught them a way to retaliate, and now they were saying they were corrupt. And they were just doing things humans do. The Demon King asked them if they had already defeated all his 4 heavenly kings. And Sword Saint Cyrus answered yes and told the Demon King that those dirty orcs were no match for his sword. The Demon King was shocked and asked them if they meant to tell him that the brave great orc warrior, Tathid, was dead. He was saying in his mind that even if orcs may look barbaric, they were an innocent species of hunter-gatherers. And they never betray their own kind. And said additionally that the orcs protect the weak and fight the strong. Asking how dare those guys talked about them like they were monsters. Master King Tesslon said that the sickening monstrous troll just paid for their sins. Demon King was asking himself if even Gyarathilka was dead too. He knows to himself that trolls were a bit scary looking, and asks that they not be too harsh for it. And said that the trolls were just nature lovers who focus on spiritually. Saintess Ellen also said that the evil dwarf who worshipped the god of darkness has also been brought to justice. Demon King Rifenhardt couldn't believe it, and was asking since when was the god of dwarves being called the god of darkness. Saying that they were so arrogant, and think all gods other than the Sayer and the 12 gods were just evil beings. Mage of Light, Jade Archlight said that they have sent the corrupt dark elf to the beyond too, and was no match for his magic. He was getting provoked and told them that they were all begging to be killed. They were saying now that the Demon King was showing his true colors. And said that the dark elf was a demon that had fallen to the dark side and they give no piety to such creatures. Demon King Rifenhardt said that the dark elf's skin might have been darker than them, but it was because the humans cut down all the trees, and she had to evacuate to the barren lands. And was asking if they were going to treat a pure-blooded high elf like a dark elf just because she got tanned. Hero Alex was shouting that he will avenge the dead with his sword. The Demon King was getting exasperated and asked if they wouldn't listen, then who would avenge the otherworldly dead? Hero Alex asked how despicable he was, and if it weren't for his evil powers, the monsters wouldn't have fallen to the dark side and they would have lived their fated normal lives. There was no use, they wouldn't listen to him at all. To them, otherworldly species were nothing more than species of the dark who want to live as more than slaves. And just for that, they were thinking that they were worth killing for. And if it was the case, he will become the Demon King they so wish him to be. And struck them all with his powers. His name was Rifenhardt. He was just an ordinary great mage. Although being a great mage isn't very ordinary. Humans do not see otherworldly species as equal, intelligent creatures. Elves were seen as pretty servants who just happened to live long lives. Dwarves were slaves who were good with their hands and mining. Orcs were good for menial work. Trolls were used as ingredients for healing potions. They were seen as slaves with neither ego nor will. He was incredibly shocked to find their forgotten culture and how deep it ran. He got to know them and their cultures. He got to learn spiritual magic from the elves and sorcery from the trolls. By combining them all, he was able to reach 10-circle magic for the first time in history. He continued to interact with them, which changed his outlook on life. He could no longer watch them be treated as slaves and began rescuing them. It became harder to trick the humans as his territory grew, and the humans began sending knights to raid them. They continued to raid them, destroy things, loot their lands, and they continued to move elsewhere. All they did was fight back when attacked, but they somehow ended up taking over more land and their town grew in size. It became bigger and bigger until it became the Antares Empire. He ended up establishing the Antares Empire, but it wasn't that he hated humans. He just believed that the otherworldly species was not inferior to humans. They did not carry out any kind of retaliation against the humans. And that was what came out of that. Even if the citizens of Antares all agreed that that was a great place to live, the humans argued that it was just the evil spell of the Demon King making them say so. He does understand why would think that since his army consisted of ogres and goblins, they were not the prettiest species to exist. But to kill his people for a reason like that, it was unacceptable. He said that he had a duty to protect his empire. If there was a law that allowed murder, he would eliminate that law and put a new one in its place. He hit Hero Alex and said to it that he was sure he was called the hero because he was proficient with both the sword and magic, but in reality, they haven't achieved mastery in either. And to put that nicely, Hero Alex was well-rounded, but he was not that strong. And heroes only survive to the end in stories. In reality, it's best to dig one well. Now it was just the martial king Tesslon left, the man known for his strong physique. The others were not difficult to defeat, but Tesslon was different. Martial King Tesslon beat him and he was thrown away, and Martial King Tesslon said that it was their victory. Demon King was hurt, all his spines were broken, and he will end up dead at that rate. He was saying in his mind that he just needed to kill him, but there was no possibility of him winning against him now. Martial King Tesslon told him that he will send him to his judgment. Demon King Rifenhardt told Martial King Tesslon win, and it was good for him. He said that he assumes the others will finally be free of their demonic restraints. Demon King Rifenhardt says in his mind that he was going to give up, but he can't. Asking himself free of their demonic restraints and Martial King meant living as slaves was their natural fate. He cannot accept that, and it was too maddening. And he suddenly uses the Eye of Time and Space, the magical artifact he found in an ancient ruin. It was an artifact with very powerful magic that even he, 10 Circle, had yet to decipher. Martial King Tesslon was asking what he was trying to do. He answered that the Time and Space Regression Spell. A spell that turns back time and destabilizes the god's providence. He doesn't know if it will work, but he won't lose anything from it. And told the Martial King to stop him if he can. The Martial King struck him that much in order for him to be thrown away, and he jumped back in time. The bird was chirping on trees, and in this modern house he was sleeping. He opened his eyes and he was asking himself if he was still alive and did he really succeed, the very spell that he couldn't decipher even half of. He told himself that he knew that he was a genius, but he didn't think it would work. He was asking where he was, and it seems like he had jumped the timeline, but was he ever in a place like that in his past? He was also asking how old he was supposed to be right now. He stood up on his bed, looking at his physique that most young men would cry over. And when he looked in the mirror, he was shocked, asking his own self who he was. He was asking with all of those calluses, he thought his body was scared and covered in muscles, and it was so disgusting for him. He said that a mage only needs to be skilled in magic, and asked himself what's with his useless six-pack. It was weird for him to comment about himself, but his body during his youth swept several ladies off their feet. And after he got older, he became cooler and made several elves cry. He was asking with a stupid face he had, and where did his statuesque-like face go, and said that his body looks more like a statue. He was looking at his face in the mirror and was still asking what happened, and did his time and space regression spell fail? And was that why he was in some random guy's body? But as he remembers the face, it does look familiar to him. Then he was thinking that it might not be the past, and asked himself that he was in the present and had instead switched with the body's soul. He was looking at his thick brown eyebrows, his tenacious-looking eyes, and his stubborn mouth. And if his torso gets larger than then and he grows facial hair, he will look like the indomitable Martial King Tesslon. While he was still looking at himself in the mirror, someone called him by the name of Tesslon and told him that the sun was high in the sky. The big man asked him what he was doing inside and why aren't he coming outside. And told him to have another great day. He asked the big who it was, telling in his mind that it was a monster. The big guy was shocked and asked him why he was looking at him as if it was his first time seeing him. He answered that he was asking because he doesn't really know. The big guy asked if he already used amnesia as an excuse twice. And said that he was sure that those excuses didn't work anymore. And suddenly grabbed him and told to go to the training area. He was looking at the situation, and it seems that the person grabbing him was Tesslon's teacher. The continent's strongest martial artist of all time, the former Martial King Gerard Cromprotes. He was tied up in a tree, saying an excuse to the teacher and asked if he could listen to him. The teacher told him to shut up and that he was very talkative on that day. And they will start the training. The teacher beat him hard in his abdomen, and he was crying to the pain he felt. He was asking himself what was going on. The teacher was still beating him and he was thinking about Cirrus. Teacher Gerard said in his mind that Tesslon's hands felt a little strange earlier and it was a lot softer than before. Asking his mind if does Tesslon really had an amnesia. He told Tesslon that their martial clan Jim Unbreakable was hardworking, since their training's trademark was simple, idiotic, and excessive. It was not unusual for the trainee to suffer from short-time memory loss. And suddenly remembers that he also lost his memory a few times in the past. He said that it was nothing big, so the solution was simple. He told Tesslon that it will feel better after getting beat up. While he was beating Tesslon, he was saying that the reason why humans use weapons was because they were weak, and they have weak physiques, and asked that it wasn't that the reason they rely on armor and weapons. He was asking in his mind why the teacher was calling humans a stupid for using tools. The teacher shouted to him that it was an excuse and that it was the shame of a person who couldn't overcome their weakness. And told him that martial artists train to overcome their weaknesses. And it was his first time hearing such simple and stupid logic in his whole life. The teacher shouted that humans were the same as steel. The more they beat up a human, the stronger they become, just like steel. He was asking how people were the same as steel and called him a geezer. The teacher said that he was the student he chose and wanted him to believe that he had no physical limits and he could become steel. The teacher was thinking in his mind that not everyone can become stronger by training. Just like only high-quality iron can become steel, only a select few can have steel-like physique. And then he met Tesslon. The teacher wanted him to think about the ocean. The sea swallows everything, but it doesn't change, and said that the ocean was inside him and brought out the ocean in him. But he was thinking nothing about what the teacher said. The training was over and told him to go inside and rest. He told himself that he was not dead. He got beat up so much, but he didn't die. He hugs himself saying thank you for being so tough. The day ends and the night comes. He was amazed Geralt leaves and petals and asking if it was a healing potion. Thinking that a bottle of healing potion cost 10 silver coins, but to think there was a whole bathtub full of it. He heard that the queen bathes in milk to get great skin, but nothing compared to it. He was asking the teacher what was the medical bath, and so the teacher answered that he needed to cool steel down after hammering it. The thing was coming in his mind after training the whole musculoskeletal system just shy of death. He recovered quickly by using the power of aura and recovery potions, and that way his body will recover before it gets sick and will become stronger. That means those training method wasn't completely insane. He fought Tesslon personally, so he knew how tough his body was, and he was sure Tesslon repeatedly did those training since he was young. And he was now certain that it was the past, and he was asking what happened to him that time. And asking if the young Rifenhardt exists, and can two of the same souls exist in one time-space dimension. And if it can, then he can construct two hypotheses. First, the future Rifenhardt and he, the one inside Tesslon's body, coexist with the young Rifenhardt. Second, in the young Rifenhardt's body was Marshal King Tesslon's soul. The morning came and the teacher wanted him to gobble those meat up and said that the overworked body needs to have its nutrients replenished. After eating, they go on a light jog to digest. The teacher was asking him if he was tired or should they just continue their training in the morning. And he answered a no for it. After that training, he was now on his bed realizing that he, the Demon King, was reincarnated into the past Tesslon. He was wondering what influence those will have moving forward and in the case that he exists, asking what will happen if the two souls come into contact. He was thinking that each soul's uniqueness was the unchanging rule that was the foundation of the world, and if you were unlucky, your soul may cease to exist. He was analyzing that teenage Rifenhardt doesn't become active as a mage until 10 years later. And must be spending his days studying hard, only reading books at the Delphia Magic Tower, so he wouldn't possibly bump into him. He was asking what if Tesslon has taken control of his body. Then he will definitely come after him. Tesslon's strength comes from having trained his body with Jim Unbreakable, and there isn't much he can do with his weak body as long as he doesn't become a 10th circle. Jim Unbreakable was a training method he definitely needs master's help for, and there was no way he'll do it alone. No, with the stage that Tesslon's at, and he may be able to find a way. In any case, his urgent priority was to run away from the teacher, and so he was running away. He was saying that no matter what he does tonight, he will run away. He didn't know that the teacher was outside sitting on that big rock and he was shocked when he saw it and he was being asked where he was going. His teacher said that he was quiet for a month or two, and now he was running away again and asked if it was the 9th time, and they will be in the double digits soon. Then he suddenly told the teacher that he was honestly not the boy named Tesslon and his name was Rifenhardt and he was a mage. And the old man asked if that was his backstory this time around, because the last time he said that he came from another world. Saying that he met dragons and gods too. And he was asked what it was before that. And if it was Eastern Continent's Huan Empire, in a place called Murim and he was an active master, but he reincarnated, or something. And told him that this time it was a bit convincing. He had gotten better and said to him to go back and sleep. His teacher grabbed him and he was saying that he failed on that day, but he will definitely succeed tomorrow. Yes, he failed at prison breaking on that day, but not to think he will live trapped there forever. The next day, he tries to escape, but his teacher saw him and said that he did all of it in his disciple period too, and so he understood and asked why wouldn't he. His teacher said that not to worry, if he will wait and endure a bit longer, he will be repaid. He gave up on thinking that he could escape from a man who was even called the Demon King because he didn't know the meaning of giving up. His teacher shared to him that Jim Unbreakable has 130 years of disciple escape prevention methods and there have been no disciples in his history who haven't faked an illness or tried to escape. He was saying that even if he was lucky enough to escape, that human would definitely surge to the ends of the continent and chase him down. And it will be better to just officially get permission and climb down the mountain. And suddenly his teacher beat him with the spike ball and said that was how he, within the prison overflowing with love, passed the time of 2 years. And he finally attained it, he finally awakened his aura and succeeded in awakening aura. He heard that even Cyrus, who was praised as the Sword Saint, only awakened his aura in his late 20s, so to think he would achieve those stages when he's not even 20. His teacher was asking him why he was so shocked. And said with the training of Jim Unbreakable, something like those was obvious. If he stimulates the survival instinct along with physical training, the will of life increases his vitality, and that increased power manifests as aura. And they move on to the next step. He was asking if they are going to learn some normal martial arts. And he was asking if he will be able to finally descend the mountain soon. His teacher told him that he will be sparring training with him. Then he trained for years and 3 more years passed. At the Vasily Kingdom southern region. Larchid mountains, deep rough terrain. Tesslon was still in training in some normal martial arts, he was matured and his body was built perfectly. He was practicing a horn calamity, he was asking if the 3rd position was his limit. And thinking that he just has to do it a bit more for it to work. Calamity horn. Was a one blow that will strike after channeling all of the strength in one spot of the body. Because the sight of concentrating the aura looks like a horn, it got the nickname of Calamity Horn. So he needs to somehow polish that to the 4th superposition. Calamity Horn's final stage was the 9th superposition. The punch that sends 9 ripples can apparently even kill gods. But the Tesslon he knew had 7 superpositions as his limit, and even Master Gerard could only perform the 8 superpositions. His teacher said that he needed to at least reach the 4th superposition to descend the mountain. He said that his teacher has gone down to the village in a while, so maybe he will take his time and have a drink before coming. In the past, he would have taken those as an opportunity and ran away and he will end his stamina training there. He is now doing the Delfer La Stellan. Become the bullet made from air to hit the enemy. The arrow bullet. He hit the tree but it seems his body was not supporting him. Although he vividly remembers all of his magic knowledge through his artificial flash black. But his mana isn't building. And that stone body of Tesslon's has no arithmetic ability, he can really become a mage. Then he heard something that was walking and was saying that the energy was not human. Then suddenly an orc appeared. That's all for today, thank you so much for watching. Please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more videos.